Hi guys, welcome back to the Warrior Rewild channel. My name is Jenny, and I am going to talk a little bit about ADHD today. But I'm going to do it from a very personal angle. So for those of you who saw the prior video that we did, I am a nurse and a health coach and in school to be a nurse practitioner. And during this last 2 years while I was in grad school, I started to stop doing all of the things that I have been telling and teaching for years. And that led to an exacerbation of my ADHD symptoms, which then led to a health crisis. And part of the reason that I want to talk about this is that, for so long, we have kind of been looking at health and wellness and weight loss through the lens of the fitness industry. And I think that that is kind of where we went wrong. There is amazing things that people do in the fitness industry, particularly in bodybuilding and like fitness shows. They do absolutely understand how to get their bodies down into these impeccable works of art. But I really think that that is different than health and what a lot of us are trying to do. But we were teaching weight loss, and we were teaching health and fitness and health and wellness through the lens of that industry. And I really think that that set us up for disaster along the way. The other aspect is that we fail to look at the entire kind of ecosystem of what it means to be a human being and holistically look at how do we get somebody healthy, instead of how do we just forcibly make the body do what we want it to do, because there's so many aspects that comes into to the human experience and to what it means to be a human being. And one of those aspects, well, first let me tell you what my North Star, right, through the years, as I've developed my coaching practice, my nursing career, and now it's kind of all coming together into one thing, one practice. And as I've kind of developed and learned and guided where I've studied, what I've studied, and how I've pieced together some dots that maybe other people haven't pieced together, is that a client and friend asked me once, like, I am doing everything right. Why am I not losing weight? And at that point, I didn't have an answer because I was still looking through the lens of the fitness industry and kind of the consensus of what the experts were saying about how it was that you would lose weight or you would get healthy. And shortly after that, I stopped looking at things through the fitness industry and looking at things through consensus, because I realized that a lot of the times you really have to look out of the box and you have to be willing to challenge the status quo. And there is a 17 to 20-year gap from current solid research to application and general public knowledge. And that's not just general public knowledge. It's even like how we practice in the hospital. It's what your experts are saying. There's a 17+ year gap between the publishing of data and knowledge and wisdom and understanding in scientific journals to the application in real world. That is absolutely unacceptable to me. In other fields, technology, say, there is a 17-year gap between knowledge and science and application in real world. But for some reason in health and wellness and medicine, there's this really big gap. And I think we need to push as consumers, right? As people, we need to push that the industry catches up with that. And part of that is the shifting of looking at health and wellness, not from a fitness industry, but from a health and wellness, like its own thing, because you also don't want to look at it through the sick care model either of conventional medicine. But so I feel like we're kind of creating this pathway that's its own pathway. And obviously I have a love for understanding mental health, considering that my nurse practitioner specialty is psychiatric and mental health. And I work in the intersection between mental health, metabolism, circadian health, really bringing those together and understanding that space in between. And I don't think that looking at anything, whether it be physical health, mental health, health and wellness, weight loss, you really have to look at the intersection of all these more of these. It's the unification that will give us our answers, not the separation of the body systems. So, long story short, let me tell you a little bit about my personal experience. And I want to hear from you if you have felt like this, you've suffered this way, and it might not be from ADHD, but the idea is that there are other factors that influence our weight loss or our health and wellness in ways that maybe we weren't connecting the dots before. So here I am. I'm a few years ago. I am living what I'm preaching, right? So I'm in the mountains all the time. I'm hiking, I'm running, I'm lifting, I'm crossfitting, I'm working out, I'm building my relationships with other human beings in my life. I'm getting good sunlight. My circadian rhythm is great. My food is on point. My supplements are great. And I make a decision that I'm going to shift my life, that I didn't want that in order to fully understand what I was doing. I needed more education. I wasn't happy with my ability of what I was doing in my coaching company. I wanted to do more. I was discovering more, and I wanted to increase my understanding. So I go to school to be a nurse practitioner, and somewhere along the lines, I start to unmatch. And obviously, I always knew that I was not a neurotypical. I knew it was not diagnosed as ADHD, but I think it's because I am a 46-year-old woman. And back then, girls sometimes are misdiagnosed, and it was still evolving and understanding. And I think it was just a little bit older than like kind of the push of like everybody has ADHD, right? And that's a whole nother video about causes and meanings and what it means. But the point is that my life got significantly more stressful, and I had to manage significantly more things. And because that happened, I had less time. So I was going out in the mountains less, I was getting to the gym less, and potentially maybe I was being a little bit less spot on with my food. That happened. It was a big snowball. So then the increase of the stress and demands on my brain, and I was treating or was not experiencing as many. Now, for those of you who have always known me, time management has always been a struggle for me. I'm clearly never been very completely normal, right? Like my brain definitely works different than other people's. But I was not suffering from the symptoms, right? I had built a world and life around who I was and what worked for me. Biggest struggle in my life probably was getting to my 3 shifts a week on time, because everybody else just knew Jenny time. I was going to get there. I had full good intention, but I was just, no matter what, very, very hard for me to get places on time. I could literally be early, be parked outside, and still somehow manage to get in late. So that was my biggest impairing symptom back then, but I had really put a lot of different things in place in order to handle that. With the increased demands, and then suddenly not treating, for my brain works the best when I'm working out hard, when I'm out in the woods, when my circadian rhythm is balanced, when I have ketones flowing, and exercise. Exercise is huge for my brain. Someday over the last 2 years, I made a decision one day where I didn't go to the gym. And then another day, and I'm not saying I remember exactly these things, but then another day I was like sitting in front of my computer, freaking out about a paper or trying to study for an exam, and decided to eat something I would not usually eat. Like, oh, wow, that brownie looks really good. Maybe if I eat that brownie just this once, just to get through this paper. And then that kind of started to downregulate my dopamine, because I'm looking at screens, I'm staying up late, I'm not exercising, now I'm eating carbohydrates. And so then I start chasing, and looking back, I started to associate, and I did this in college too, and I also gained weight in my undergrad, and then lost it right at the tail end like I am now. It's like I was chasing the carbohydrates. Now, I had just spent years going kind of cycling ketosis throughout the different seasons, fasting, eating whole real foods, had really had a handle and felt phenomenal. Loved my diet, loved how I felt in my body and my brain. And um, was not somebody I wouldn't have said, "Oh, I'm a carb addict," like 2 years ago. I would be like, "I love eating fat and protein, like, I feel phenomenal on this." But I think I was treating my undiagnosed, unadmitted symptoms of ADHD, and then it snowballed, right? I ate more, I went to the gym less, then I felt my symptoms got worse, so then I felt like I needed to, well, you know what, I'm just gonna eat these chips that somebody brought into the house, look really good. And it's not like I was eating crazy, but I was eating a lot different than I had been eating for quite a while. And then one day I woke up and I was like, am I having a heart attack? What is that feeling? What is that feeling? And it took me a while of analyzing my rhythm and watching my heart rate and using devices to monitor it and going to the doctor and like, oh, that's anxiety. It doesn't look like other people in my life what their anxiety looks like, but it's my anxiety. And I think it was from the untreated ADHD. So everything just started to snowball and make everything worse. So it's like, eat a little bit, don't go to the gym. Symptoms get worse. Oh, now I really got to eat and not go to the gym because now I'm behind because I'm disorganized and I'm having stress and I'm having anxiety. So, you know, I'm definitely going to just eat a slice of pizza that somebody left in the fridge instead of make my steak and, you know, whatever else I was going to eat with that steak. And it just spiraled. And I can't go to the gym because I don't have enough time because I didn't organize my time right. And then I'm more stressed. So, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. This is the piece that had I caught this early enough, I could have said, oh, you know what? Just go to the gym. It's fine. If you miss that one thing, you can figure it out after. You're going to be better off in the long run if you go to the gym, if you eat well, if you take time to meditate. You know, there's a kind of a famous saying, like, if you don't have time to meditate, then you really need to meditate. I'm sure I just ruined the quote, but, you know, taking the time to do all that probably would have made the last 2 years so much easier. But it wouldn't have brought me to this crisis in order to share with you to then learn everything I'm learning. So, in some weird way, I'm so grateful for this moment in time because one, it helped me realize that I could help other people who are struggling with this cycle. You know, if I help you and so you come to see me because you're in this cycle and I assess you and we find out maybe you have an underlying ADHD, underlying anxiety, underlying depression, you know, whatever it is. But if you have some sort of mental health issue, either that you know about, but you didn't really attribute to your weight loss issues, or maybe you didn't know about because we're just slowly starting to remove the stigma and we're slowly starting to realize that it's not like this population is crazy and this population is normal, that really all of us, mental health, we all have a brain, we all have a head, right? We all have a soul, we all have a heart. Like we are complex, multifactorial beings. And if we don't stop looking at ourselves as you're crazy and I'm not, or I'm crazy and you're not, like it's not black and white. We all have mental health. And if we support our mental health, then maybe we can help our health and wellness journey a little bit more, right? Because what you might not realize is fascinating to me is the intersection or the comorbidities of people that have anxiety, depression, ADHD, autism, and even more complex mental illnesses like schizophrenia and bipolar have a much higher level or chance of also having or in the future having a metabolic disorder, so diabetes, cancer, heart disease. So we don't tend to just have one thing, right? We have a tendency to have multiple illnesses, which shows me that when we're out of whack, we're out of whack. And really underlying, like, what is the underlying thing? Ultimately, when you really get down to it, the foundational factor that I talk about is the movement of energy, and not energy like esoteric energy, the movement of our biological or chemical energy. in our body. So the movement of your electrons, your protons, and your photons, and how efficiently we can move them in order to then generate ATP, and then we can utilize that energy in order to do all of our cellular or metabolic processes. But that's not what this video is about either. That's coming as well. We're going to do a lot of talk about mitochondria and energy exchange, because it ties into to everything. But ultimately, do you hear yourself in this story, right? Could there be some component of your mental health that is playing a part in your health journey? One of the most interesting things that I learned when I was working predominantly as a health coach is my women clients who really struggle to be able to keep weight off or get to lose weight or to keep it off had a history of trauma. And we know a large portion of the population has had some level of trauma in their life. And understanding, admitting, and then understanding how to work with that with your health journey is really, really, really powerful. So guys, tell me where you are with this. Either, first, please, I don't really know how this whole thing works, but like whether you're watching this on Rumble or YouTube, will you hit the things so I can start to slowly grow this, especially if you're going to really kind of watch and come along and share with me either personally or in the group, in the posts, like, where are you? Does this sound like you? Does this sound like somebody that you love? Have you gone through this? Like, I want to know. Let's have a conversation about this. Let's see. Let's bring this to light. That's a big piece of how we're going to get the human race healthy again. All right, guys, have a great day. Until next time.